All right, welcome to Saturday Swarm. Today we're going to be talking about impact networks and kick off the first face-to-face meeting of the Leadership Academy Book Club. Let me share my screen. Let me share the link to the Miro board. Here's a link to the Miro board. And
right now we can see your whole screen.
My whole screen? Okay.
It's a beautiful big screen.
It's huge. Hold on.
But not sure if you want to share it.
How's that? Better?
Yeah, there we go.
Okay, and into chat, I put the Miro board. If it asks for a book club, it's lowercase book club, all one word. And it'll be a little bit interactive, so let's get started. So welcome. This is the first Leadership Academy Book Club. We took a look at and read the book Impact Networks by David Ehrlichman. And it's really about how to create connections, spark collaboration, catalyze systemic change. And it really talks about shifting from a hierarchical mindset to a network mindset. And that'll be our first section to discuss. It also had stuff around how to lead in networks and talked about catalyzing, facilitation, weaving, coordination, and also the principles of network leadership, which was to foster self-organization, promote emergence, embrace change, and hold dynamic tensions. And then I wanted to touch on cultivating impact networks. So the book talks about the 5 C's around clarifying purpose and principles, convening the people, cultivating trust, coordinating actions, and collaborating for systems change. So I thought that would be a nice third topic to discuss today. So we do have a Miro board available, and feel free to take notes, add stuff. I want this to be kind of a collaborative, community created space. So jump in, and as we talk and you want to add some stuff here, that would be awesome. But before we kick all of this off, just for the people here, and maybe you could use the raise hand function. How many finished reading the book? Then maybe come off mute. What did people think from the book? Was it useful? Was it something that you can apply to your own networks and different things? Was it a good selection? I'm just trying to get some feedback initially, just to see if we're going in the right direction. Thorsten.
I'm still quite very much at the beginning, but from what I've read so far, definitely helpful and really inspiring, and it's just triggering thoughts like where we have to kind of get our head around also kind of in our community. So yeah, good choice.
Thanks. I'm glad you're finding it helpful. Yeah. How about you, Yorm? I know that you've been reading it. What do you think?
Yeah, I found it extremely helpful. I think it's, while reading it, a lot of things came to me. We are doing that, and like we are doing parts of that, and it's kind of brought it all together somehow into a framework and good explanation of kind of things that we are doing intuitively. So it was quite cool. I mean, yeah, some of the things, but yeah, I liked it a lot.
Awesome. How about we just do a quick go around the room? Kawe, you're here. Nice to see you. What did you think?
Hey guys, hey Nori. I just got aware of the book, so I'm getting to the Miro board to catch up a little.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, I put a lot of stuff up there that quickly summarizes a lot of the key points that I saw. Yeah.
Thank you.
Tevo, how about you?
Hello. I haven't read that book. I just found it interesting topic to get into, hear what other has read about.
Awesome. Yeah, you're welcome here just to have the conversation too, because I know not everyone has time to read an entire book. So I'm glad we can have a face-to-face conversation to kind of do the Cliff Notes stuff. Miroslav, what brings you here?
Yes, I didn't know that we will talk about the book because I thought that this, I mean, swarm community, and I thought that, yeah, maybe we will do something else, but new stuff, so good. I will learn something, I think.
Awesome. How about Tisha? It's nice to see you here.
Hi. So for me, I think it is actually intertwined with what we're doing in Project Catalyst, because sometimes education cannot really reach a lot of people. It cannot reach 100%. So impact leadership or impact network leadership is really recommending people or advising people to create a financial plan, which I think that is what we are doing also in these sessions. We're teaching people how to know Cardano, and also through that personal and at the same time diverse community that we are in, you tend to relate yourself, and also it is diverse. Learning through impact leadership is something I think we are actually carrying in our bag, so that when we jump in our particular community, we have something to share to people. So, and then create an impact through really feasible, viable, and desirable, and really helpful project to people, especially in the Cardano community. That's all. End of sharing.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. James, do you want to give a little intro to yourself and why you're here? What you thought of the book?
Hey everyone. Yeah, so this is my first time here, so I didn't know anything about the book. So definitely looking to, learn a little bit more, hear more about it. Actually just starting to get into the whole Cardano community. So this is my first interaction here. So
Beautiful. Welcome. It's good to have you here. And
thank you.
hope we can help inspire you a little bit and keep you around. It's nice to see you.
Same, vice versa.
Great. Ilya, do you want to say a little bit?
Sure. I have nothing because I didn't know that we have to read the book. I don't know where you announced that, but I missed it. But there is so much information around that, like I get used to the situation that I'm missing most of the information flow that's going around. So I'm not even worried that I missed something. But what I'm interested here when I'm looking at the Miro board is the network mindset. I find that I'm lacking that. So it will be interesting for me to see how will be how this will be explained, and what can I take from that as ideas and practices.
Awesome. That's good to know. Yeah, that'll be our first topic of conversation. So that's good to know that you want to learn more, so we can focus on explaining it a little bit and then getting into the conversation. Amazing. Newman, do you want to say something about the book or why you're here?
Sure. I am I did know about the book club. I did not know that it was going to go on today. I just know that Saturday mornings I like to come and wake up and hang out with my Cardano Catalyst, Project Catalyst network. I did know about the thing, and I did download the sample of the book on my Kindle, and just read the first few paragraphs. So I'm here like most others to sort of find out a little bit more. I did not read the book though, but I do have one point to share, and it's sort of my intention for being here is that I feel like the network or the community is the new organizational unit, and it's one that I didn't really think about. And so I think becoming aware of the networks that you're involved in and visualizing them and working with them, and I think Ilya's proposal is really points directly to that. So the network aware folk should really take a peek at his visualization proposal.
Thank you.
And definitely add those as notes if you want to the mural board, just so that we can keep track of these ideas and suggestions as they come up. I'll try to take notes if I can, but it's hard while I'm facilitating.
Thank you for facilitating, Nori. Cheers.
Sure. Jem, Dimitri, Sophie, Melanie, you just joined. Do you want to say a little bit about the book, what you enjoyed about it, if you read it, and what you think?
Yeah. Hi, Nori. I wasn't able to read all of them. I just started the chapter 3 right now, and I'm here to listen your experiences. Yeah, I'm in this beginning now.
It's good to know where people are at. Tom or Peter, do you have anything you want to add?
I'll just pipe in and say I haven't read the book. I'm here for the, what is that called? Something notes?
Cliff notes? Cole's notes?
Yes, Cole's notes, please, if you don't mind. But thanks for the mural board. And I do intend to get this because it's, yeah, it sounds like it's got a lot of good stuff. And Nori, when it's in your library, I know it's important.
I have much of my library. You can see the bookshelf behind me. But thanks. Yes. Anybody else? Tom, you have your mic off.
Yeah, it should be on now, I think. I knew about the book club. I'm just overwhelmed, and I don't understand, Nori, how you still have time to read with all the proposals and catalysts and challenges and just keeping up with Discord and Telegram and all that good stuff. So Sensei, I apologize. I did not read the book yet.
Okay. Yeah, it's good to know. And yeah, thanks for letting us know about whether you knew about the book club, if you read the book, all that. It kind of helps set the kind of context for today's conversation.
I did put two of my favorite books up there a while ago, which is Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. And to the other side is Jonathan Livingston Seagull, which I think is a phenomenal book for children in the 70s.
Yeah, good book by Bach. Okay, thanks. Anybody else want to add anything before we move into the first conversation?
Yeah, I'm super excited to hear some cliff notes like Melanie said. I heard and saw you were planning a book club and whatnot. I didn't have any time to dive in and explore because that's all I do around here is explore everything. Anyway, you get caught up in your threads. Thank you, Nori. Super excited for this.
Thanks everybody for being here. Just as a high level kind of introduction, my plan for the Leadership Book Club is to cover 6 different books. So we'll have spaces here for each of the books over the next 6 months. And then today we're going to dive into impact networks. At the end, I have a little section here about next book topic. And rather than picking a book, I'd love to see what topics you're interested in. And then that'll help us kind of narrow down into a specific topic first, and then we can find a book that fits that topic. So as we go through this conversation, feel free to add stickies on topics that you think would be really interesting in an entrepreneurial or leadership kind of vein, because this is a funded proposal called the Entrepreneurs Book Club, and it's kind of morphed into the Leadership Academy Book Club. It's the first offering from the Leadership Academy, which is turning into a greater community organization of people that want to step up and teach the community or facilitate learnings within the community. So this is kind of our first offering, and there's going to be much more to come. And if you're interested in being part of the Leadership Academy and teaching and offering things, please do let me know. And as we start to ramp up, I'll definitely connect you with the right people. So yeah, let's get in. Dimitri, your hand is up. Do you have something you want to add?
Yeah, can you all hear me?
Yep, we can hear you great.
Right. So I didn't have the book. Jim sent me the book. Thank you, Jim. But I was able to get the audio book, which I found easier to listen to than read the book. So I listened to it a couple of times and found that what he was talking about was very interesting, because I haven't seen any organizations who function like that, other than various social service organizations, a few. So I found that he was quite accurate in identifying the particular unique things that made the network function. And one of the interesting things that I found was that in order for these things to function, one thing was it had a like a foundation or something backing it, which was funding the entire exercise. And the second thing was they were all very, a lot of this took a long time. So sometimes the people who started it off were not the people who continued it, and not the people who concluded it. So these were three of the things that I found quite interesting from this thing.
Very cool. Thanks for sharing that. Thorsten, your hand's up. Is it up new or is it still up from last time? Okay. Great. Thanks everybody for your sharing. So the first area I wanted to dive into is the network mindset. And the book talks about we kind of live in a world where we have a hierarchical mindset, where our worldview is largely mechanistic. Systems are seen as a hierarchical pyramid. A lot of companies are built that way. You have your manager and they have their manager and you have your CEO. So it's kind of a pyramid scheme, and kind of power concentrates as you go higher up in the pyramid. And really, when you look at it in the hierarchical mindset, the organization is at the center of focus. So that's this diagram down here just kind of shows organization at the middle, and then you have your hierarchies that branch out, and those could be the different departments or parts of the organization that do different things. And it's largely a top-down directive leadership. There's centralized decision-making, and there's impulse to command and control. Information is generally restricted and need to know. It's very task-oriented, and there's a strong bias towards deliberate strategy. So what the book talks about as a new emerging way to work, and one alternative is something they're calling the network mindset. So instead of a mechanistic worldview, it's a living systems worldview. Instead of hierarchies, systems are seen as a web of interactions. You can kind of see that over here. Purpose is the center of focus. So up here you see shared purpose rather than having the organization at the center, because there is no real organization. It's really about the purpose. Instead of top-down directed leadership, it's distributed servant leadership. Instead of centralized decision-making, it's about collective decision-making. And instead of command and control, the impulse is to connect and collaborate. And rather than information being need to know, we freely share information back and forth. And instead of being task oriented, it's really about relationship orientation. So the relationships matter more than the discrete tasks. And rather than having a deliberate strategy, it's embracing an emergent strategy. So letting things unfold and emerge as we learn more and more. So that's kind of, this side shows kind of visually some of those concepts. And then I thought it would be really interesting to have a conversation around these questions. What would it mean to you to apply a network mindset to your work? What would change and what would stay the same? And I know that just looking at some of these, we're already largely shifting towards a network mindset within Catalyst, just from the nature of our decentralized kind of way of working and how we're just this web of relationships and connections. So it's really landed really hard for me to realize like we're already headed there, and a lot of this is going to resonate and feel right. So that's why I thought this would be an amazing book to read into, because it kind of lays it out in a way that maybe we haven't thought about and connected in this way before. So I'd love to hear what you all think. Are we working in a network mindset already? Do we still need to work towards this to really embody this? Should we? All of those kinds of things. So definitely jump in, raise your hands, and let's go. Thorsten, your hand's up.
I think we're working towards it, but we are not fully there yet. I was struck by Melanie's kind of like discussion, where she said, well, we have to foster collaboration a lot more, specifically in this proposal setting phase. And I still think in that context, it's not necessarily yet at a level that we are openly sharing information, because this mindset of protecting information, don't let the proposal go out too early, is still there. And it's also still a barrier there kind of to include others. So it's almost kind of feels a little bit still like it's preset, and the group of people who are proposing have to find themselves before, and then they try to run it. And we're still struggling in certain areas. So definitely kind of to be more inclusive, if that makes sense. Could you hear me?
What are some things you think we could do to be more inclusive, to free up that information? Are people afraid to share it? Are there negative consequences to sharing?
I think
they are.
Dimitri, please.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but to answer that question, I think they are afraid to share. Why I think that? Because I've had a few experiences where I did share, and because of either some sort of cultural difference or misunderstanding of intention, I got told off pretty badly when there was no cause for that. And thereafter, I did not feel at all interested or even safe to share in that particular location. So just to answer that question, in particular situations when, like when I read the book, he was talking about how conflict is not a bad thing, but the people need to learn how to disagree without going into conflict, and also be, especially when there are multiple cultures involved, that they have to be very aware of the diversity involved. And he spoke about how the people in the different groups, particularly in that Indian situation where there was an Indian tribe who had been very badly treated by the white people, and they had every reason to be very critical of the white people's intention to of what they were doing now, but the Indian chief kind of thought about that the white what do you call it, conservation groups and foundations had the same love for the that area that he had and his people had. So he was able to put that aside and work with them. But of course, that he himself says that took a long time and a lot of patience on his part. So you know, I mean, this is a long rambling answer to the question. As much as people here talk about being considerate of other people's opinions and feelings, practically, I have had a few examples where that's not the case. So it does require learning from everybody in order how to consider the other people's viewpoints.
All right. Thanks for sharing that, Dimitri. So we have one opinion around information sharing is because of safety. I'm going to summarize if that's correct. Jem, your hand's up. Do you want to add something?
I think people are in the people adopted network mindset, but we don't have the tools to implement network mindset yet. As you know, decentralized autonomous organizations doesn't have any C-level, and people involved in the DAOs can have good relations and can manage to pass the purpose to a next level. But I think we should find some ways to work together, because in the hierarchical systems, there is a task and you get paid for this task. But in the new system, in network mindsets, we don't know how to implement the jobs and do something for the DAO or the people altogether. I think that's the problem. We need some tools to promote our network mindset.
Interesting. I'm curious what those tools would look like and what are we specifically lacking?
Yeah, in particular ways, we are trying to set it up in the Little Fish Foundation. And if we can find the correct ways, then Little Fish Foundation will grow, and we can say that at that time we solved this problem.
Thanks, Jim.
You're welcome.
Thorsten, did you want to circle around and finish up your thought, or are you done?
Yeah, I'm done. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Melanie, you want to go next?
So I'm sorry, again, I haven't read the book. When I hear network marketing, and you know, I've been involved in it in the past, and it's very powerful, and you know, people can get very rich on it. And then I realize, what about the last person in, and what is the purpose of this particular network? And it typically means, you know, it helps me realize that this is not the network that I want to be involved in. There's a lot of tools and systems that work effectively in creating networks, like communication, connecting, sharing your story. There's all sorts of things that work. But when the purpose to me is driven by financial gain, you lose the value in it, and it becomes a pyramid instead. So I don't know, it's not quite right, but there are the bad actors and the bad examples of what a network can do. And that's just what I brought in there, what came to mind.
Thanks for bringing that up. And it's good to say that the term network could trigger people to think about actual hierarchies. Like I would bring up, say, like Amway or some of those network marketing, they are a hierarchical pyramid where your diamond level has all these different kind of people under them, and it's a hierarchy of salespeople. I don't think that's the type of network that we're talking about here. We're really talking about this kind of network, more like neurons or like a mycelial network. It's more of a living systems worldview where things are interconnected and intertwined in a more natural way rather than in a artificial hierarchy. Yeah, but thanks for bringing that up. I think that's important to make sure we're very clear on the terms we're using so that we have good communication and are able to be on the same page when we talk about networks. Randall.
I think Miro was first.
Oh, Miro.
Okay, I think that Randall was first, but okay, thank you, Randall. I think I think that this network mindset is much more closer to blockchain, because this old mindset of this system, you know, when everybody is in fear, I must be first. I think that here is the opposite. If you're not attached for your deeds, for your action, then I think that you're in network mindset, because you're open heart and open mind. If you have fear, there is attachment. If you're attached to something, then you must be, I'm the first, I must be the best. You know? And I think that this network mindset is I think that it's much more better to be in network mindset than in old system, because old system will collapse. It already collapsed now. So I think that we must switch somehow in this, I will say, new mindset, network mindset, or blockchain mindset for me. And with action and sharing everything, and this relationship for me is much more important thing, that I have good relationship with somebody, for example, in my team. If this relationship is good, is nice, polite, with humble aspects, with gentle communication, we can achieve everything, you know. But where is the fear? There is no love, I will say like that. You know? There is no good feeling. So yeah, for me, this is very, very nice. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Thanks, Miro. Randall.
I was enjoying what you were saying there, and it gave me hints of Buddhism. And I was actually coming up to talk to query back to Jem about maybe what you see being missing or needed for organizations to like in the way of tooling for organizations.
I think there should be some systems for giving the rewards to the community members, and getting fees, or having some relations and maybe agreements altogether, and to bring that purpose to a higher level. I don't know if there's something available on Cardano blockchain, but there are some. There are tools on different blockchains. I meant that one.
Yeah, I am working on such a tool, and thanks for that input. I think it makes good sense. Very much.
Thank you.
And Randall, if it's not a secret project, do you mind posting links to your tooling or thoughts there on the Miro board, just so if people are curious and want to look at what you're doing?
It's not secret, but I don't have any external facing links yet. I'd be happy to do a demo at some point here. So,
all right, thanks, Randall. Sosha, you want to go next?
Yeah, I think I kind of lost what the original question was, but I think thinking about the network, and I guess where we are now, and what I see that I think is important, also related to some points earlier made about creating a space where people feel free to share their thoughts. And I think it's important in these network mindset sort of, yeah, it's the information sharing and collective decision making. But also that that it's not an easy thing, and that it takes time to build these kind of structures, and also to find the right boundaries or sort of separations of concerns, where it's easy to create a big spaghetti of intertwined nodes in a network, but to have an idea of how that actually works and to do that in a meaningful way can be quite challenging, I think. And one thing that I've noticed is that although it's a good thing that we've really created this culture of sort of the positive energy, giving positive feedback, supporting ideas that are good, adding new ideas, starting to do things, right? That is really promoted. But in the end, we do need a balance, or also with like more the subtractive side. And for everything that we add, we need to also have a way to know if we should remove it again or stop doing it. And I think sometimes there's not enough space for the critical thoughts or the looking for reasons why we maybe shouldn't do something or shouldn't, or maybe try and find a smaller scope for the things we're trying. And that also can sometimes lead to some conflicts, but we have to accept that, if we're all part of the decision making, then there will be those kind of conflicts as well that need to be resolved.
Thanks, Osha. I think that's a good point. We can't just be additive forever. We need to reassess and do what nature does, is like let those things that are ready to go, and sometimes prune things that aren't working out so well.
And to add a last thought to that, to a bit more concrete, is that in these kind of systems, there's often a differentiation between consent and consensus. But where now the culture is still a lot focused on, do we all agree? Is everybody in support? And then generally some people will jump in really positively, yeah, sure, let's do it. And then there isn't any space for the other side, where if you have a consent-based system, then the question would be, does anybody have a serious objection? You turn the question around, really looking for that. Can anybody tell us why we shouldn't try, why we should make this smaller, or what we should consider? And I think also in sort of collaborative decision making, that can be very important, because the space where we all agree on is often very small, but the space that we can all tolerate is a lot bigger.
Yeah, the room for objections, and the another thing that comes up for me is the idea of having momentum behind something, that it's not just a loudest voice and no one's arguing with it, but that there's actually people saying, yeah, there's momentum.
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up, Sosha. I think the consent versus consensus thing, it is mentioned in the book, and they offer one way of doing that, which is taken out of Sociocracy. But it adds something to it that I hadn't seen before, where people vote 0 to 5. And 0 means absolutely no, this totally is outside of my tolerance zone. And 1 means I have serious concerns and we need to talk about it. And then 2, 3, 4, 5 are different degrees of agreement. And then like 5 means I totally agree and I want to be part of the team that drives this forward. So the voting mechanism actually draws out who the core team will be at the same time, which I think is cool. And you're looking for a vote result of 2 or higher across the board. And if anybody's still at 1 or 0, you need to talk about things and you need to either expand the scope or change it until you can fit everybody in. But it also doesn't mean that everyone is a binary yes or no. There's different tolerances of, it's within my comfort range to say yes here, even though I might not completely agree. But I think that is a very nice way of looking at things because it helps us get to decisions faster too, I think, rather than going in endless circles around binary options, yes or no. But yeah, thanks for bringing that up. And I would love to talk about that later when we get into some of the other stuff here. Ilya, your hand is up.
Yes, well, I had so many thoughts while I was listening to the people that were speaking before me, but I forgot them all. But I want to share what my struggle with the network mindset is, and with the networking structure as a whole. Like you mentioned mycelium networks and nature, how nature operates. But for me, the trouble is the huge amount of computational power that one needs to evaluate a single action in a network. So because I'm driven by structure and efficiency, I want to know beforehand when I apply my time and efforts into something, how that thing will influence the structure. But with fluid networks, that's impossible. Like I cannot imagine how anything will affect everything else because everything is interconnected, right? If I have a pure hierarchical structure, then it's way easier to evaluate how a single action will influence the whole system. But in an interconnected network, it's impossible. And that brings me to the question, how much should I invest in the actions that in the ideas that I'm proposing and the actions that I'm doing? And that's a constant uncertainty about how to allocate my resources, and that bothers me a lot.
Interesting. I'd be curious to hear what people think about that. For myself, when you look at hierarchical mindset, which is a bias towards deliberate strategy, then the network is letting go of that and embracing the emergent strategy. And the other one is systems seen as a web of interactions. What comes to mind is when birds flock, they can produce very intricate weaving patterns that are really beautiful. I don't know if you've seen some of those videos of like starlings, like millions of them like flying around in formation. But
yes, I've seen it.
Yeah, each one only knows about 2 or 3 or maybe 5 of its neighbors. It doesn't know the whole system, and it doesn't think about, if I fly this way, how will it affect the whole? It just kind of takes its cues from what's immediately around it. And yet this beautiful pattern emerges from the collective actions of all of them. And I think that's kind of, for me, what network mindset is getting towards, is to let go and trust in the collective emergent beauty. And you don't have to know the whole picture. You just need to interact in your space, and the rest will just happen. Maybe, I don't know. I'd be really curious to hear what other people think. Thorsten, your hand is up.
Yeah, from me, kind of like this way of working feels liberating in the sense that I decide what I want to do. So effectively, a little bit of reflection on what was said just before. So in hierarchies, you get told pretty much what you have to do, and it doesn't really matter whether it is your personal preference. It might be the perception of someone else that you're good at something, and your own perception might necessarily not meet that. And it also gives you the ability to be curious and experiment in an environment which fosters that. So from that perspective, it's a lot it's a positive experience in itself. And in work, I actually realized that whilst there are these hierarchy structures, at the end of the day, the real power comes in when you break this down and start building networks and interact with people, which are not necessarily kind of in direct proximity to you, but which share the same perspective. So which have the same purpose. And I think the book is talking also about purpose, and it's talking about that networks per se don't have a strategy, but you can effectively design them in that way. So leadership is an important element in that one. And I think we're flocking a little bit around people which we understand as being leaders in that construct, but on the other side still have this liberation to decide whether we want to stick with it or not, which in hierarchies you cannot do. So I get the point of efficiency, but I'm not sure whether hierarchical structures, I'm sure from my personal experience that hierarchical structures in itself are not necessarily more efficient.
Interesting.
Can be, but don't have to. Yeah. And most of the times they're not. At least that's my experience.
Okay. And you're touching a little bit around network leadership, and we'll move into that in a sec. Maybe we can let Dan and Sosha have a crack, and whoever else had their hand up, and then we'll move into the network leadership conversation. You want to go ahead, Dan?
Well, Nora, I like your, well, I think we all love this of a flocking group of birds, and it's important to recognize how beautiful that is, and how important it is that we all need to know a little in order to collaborate with the group. But I also think it's good to look at the notion that a flock of birds is somewhat different than human beings, and that a flock of birds exists on their own, and humans in our social coordination are trying to design an environment and have some kind of collective intention. So I think it's important not only to collect this space to negotiate and collaborate with the cloud, but also to capture the collective intentions of especially humans, where we got a lot of problems to solve and we need to focus our attention. So that's where I think hierarchy comes in, and it's really hierarchy structured around collective intention, and leadership is important too, of course. But once you identify those intentions and you get a group of people to kind of flock around those intentions and make them direct them, that's where true collaboration begins, where you really said, hey, we're not just floating in a cloud, we're actually focused on trying to solve our human problems. So that's all the thoughts. That's why I think I'm really dedicated toward building forms that capture community intentions and try to deliver them well-formed, and sometimes structure, at least at some level. We got a team and have people who are collaborating in ways that sometimes are hierarchical, and it's useful sometimes. That's all my thoughts.
Thanks, Dan. And it seems like we are moving towards the topic of leadership, so we'll move there after. Sosha, you want to have the last word in the network mindset conversation, Sosha?
Yeah, as a response also to the sort of embracing it or not having that clarity of what the results are. I think part of it is what you said, Nori, is that you kind of just have to. Part of it is kind of embracing that, doing the fall backwards, trusting your friends to catch you kind of thing. I think also part of this, especially in this age, part of the network way and the transparency that we need and collaborative decision making is sort of designing things data first and really focusing on collecting data from within the network and visualizing it and making it accessible to everybody is really important. Also, in the end, we're going to base decisions on that data, like, for example, rewards for what people did. But if we only store the decisions, then we can't really go back and look at what we did and why. Whereas if we really just focus on storing the data, we can basically virtualize the network and run all kinds of experiments with different parameters and try all kinds of things out and sort of separate the reality from our experimental playing field.
Nice.
Yeah, thanks for that. Okay. So the next part of the book that I lifted out was, there's a whole section on leading in networks. And I thought it'd be interesting to have a conversation around which of the 4 network leadership roles outlined in chapter 4 most align with your natural strengths, maybe. And the roles were around catalyzing, facilitation, what they called weaving, and coordination. And I found that interesting because these aren't like the traditional leadership roles you find in hierarchical organizations. So I think that might be an interesting topic. And also they outlined some principles of leadership network. And I was curious what everyone thought and which ones resonated with you around fostering self-organization, embracing change. And we just talked about that a little bit. Promoting emergence. So rather than planning and having strategy, promoting emergence, and then holding dynamic tensions. And the tensions are important because you need the two to balance things. So there's a tension between building trust and taking action. Do you take action or do you take the time to build trust? And sometimes it's better to take action. Sometimes it's better to slow down and make sure those relationships are good first. There's participation and pace. There's self-interest and shared interest. Thinking about the parts and thinking about the whole. There's about planning and then emergence, which we've been talking about a little bit. And then there's divergence where you just bring up all sorts of different things, and then convergence when you kind of come back down to a direction, a solution, a movement forward kind of stuff. So there are these dynamic tensions that are also in play. So those are kind of the principles of network leadership as well, and the roles. So I thought we could move into that and talk about which ones align with your strengths and which ones resonate the most with you and which ones do you think might be the most challenging to put into practice. So I'll open it up there, or maybe I can cede the floor. For me, I'm really passionate about embracing change and promoting emergence. And I really like those. Some of these are really harder though, like part of the promote emergence is sense into the future. And that seems almost like a mystical thing, or at least a predictive thing. And I know Tevo here has done ULab and I've taken that as well. So it kind of reaches into some of that kind of space. But it also prioritizes connection. So like really connecting with people and having those relationships like Miroslav mentioned earlier. Having the love in the space is really important, and that allows emergent action to happen when people are in a good space and trust each other. And then engaging in experimentation is like, I really love that. Like try something, see if it works. If it doesn't, do a retrospective or reflect on it and see why and learn and grow. So those are kind of the ones I most resonate with. I'd love to hear what the rest of you think. Tevo, coming out of ULab and now you're into ULab 2.0, I guess. What do you think about those kind of concepts and emergent leadership and things?
Yeah, well, the way I kind of saw the way it got me into is that it kind of had the spirit of teaching leaders to be leaders, and it mainly was about to know yourself, your surroundings, and then help to get the people around you to be like in a same like situation, sensing the same things before going into like activities. So kind of making like friendships first, or like I'm not really friendships, but even that I would say in some cases. And then you had like in these like, practices where you kind of actually came together, like we came here in some like these workshops, and you discuss, you sense the like emotion, what's happening in your life, what you're doing, what you're trying to achieve, and then going down into like a specific problem you have, and having like these discussions were quite nice, and they did create quite a strong network in a sense. However, if you go to the like ULab 2, it didn't, the team switched, and now it's like sporadic every time there's like a huge group. But yeah, maybe it's just my fault not following all the Canva stuff, and because there is a tool to help to collaborate, but I have not interacted with that much because I'm more involved in the Cardano and doing tasks and meetings here.
All right, Dan, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, well, I look at these 4 items that you mentioned that's in the book, fostering self-organization and promoting emergence and embracing change. These are to me, these are parts of the new paradigm that we have to embrace. These are ways of being in the world, and it's not so much we have to orient ourselves to one or another of them. They're all important elements for building a better world. Bucky used to say all the time that we emerge through emergency, meaning humanity emerges through emergency. And it's an interesting thought that, we're facing one now with this conflict in Ukraine and our climate change problems. And this emergence is something that happens within us, and to recognize that it does is part of the paradigm that we should, adopt and, embrace. But I still think we need to move forward. These are philosophical ideas that really should just be embedded in our worldview rather than something that we, choose. Let's promote promote emergence, or anyway, those are my thoughts.
Thanks, Dan. And I totally agree with you. Although I think different people will have challenges with different one of those as areas that don't come naturally. So I'd be curious, what are ways that we can actually help people like embrace change if they're really about planning and strategy and really need that? Nin, welcome to the book club. What are your thoughts?
I'd say that leadership, for sure, personal leadership, extremely important for creating impact networks. When Thibault said getting to know yourself and then how to invite others into this type of leadership, right? One way to motivate people well, Nori, is by celebrating successes of convergence or emergence, right? When, I don't know if you guys saw the YouTube where one guy started dancing randomly, and then somehow there's another person, I think a kid or a lady, started dancing with him, and all of a sudden you have the whole side of the hill dancing together, just randomly, right? It does take this personal initiative, right, to change something, to create a cause. And I think the impact networks are all around us, right? Even in Catalyst. But I think maybe we could have something where a dedicated training to become a decentralized impact leader, right? To foster convergence instead of divergence. And I do believe I did not read the book personally. I did read the preview on Google Books. I can put the link in the chat. Okay, I didn't know that. Too. I think all of you guys are impact leaders, right? But for those impact leaders to proactively be fostering collaboration and always evangelize that, not just their cause, right? To evangelize collaboration. Yep.
Thanks for those thoughts, Nin. I just dropped the YouTube link to the first follower video in the notes. I think it is a really excellent example of leadership in action. And it's not the leader that's important there. It's the person that comes after and validates what they're doing and says, this is cool, I'm going to dance as well. And then it starts a movement. Worth a watch. All right. Somebody else had their hand up. Newman?
Oh, yeah. Hey, gang. I can't remember exactly what my thought was. I think it had something to do with thinking, and it was maybe what Thorsten had said or Dan. And in this time of transition, or in a transitional time, or in a mixed paradigm community, and I don't know when that would ever not be the case, it seems like leadership, it seems like thinking or acting from one paradigm, it's just the mixing of the two paradigms can be conflict making. But then it would be really interesting to talk about this crisis emergence and Buckminster Fuller as ideas. They're great thought leaders about all of this in the past, and so it would be great to sort of dig down in to see how we've done it in the past. Yeah, those are just some thoughts. Yeah.
Yes, thanks for those thoughts, Newman. And yeah, looking into the past, I think, is always a great idea. We don't always have to invent things. Some things may have been done really well in the past, and we kind of need to rediscover them. Tivo.
Yeah, Newman, you mentioned the conflicts, and you triggered me with the current news we have all over the world, where we suddenly now doing war games, and in like environments where you did not expect them, and now it's and this kind of like problem needs impact leaders and people who are able to move large amount of human thought into these kinds of issues, because it needs some kind of strategical thinking, because from here it's so hard to do anything. You're not there to help to guide or give a hand but collectively, if there is a possibility to stop these things, if we would, like, suddenly a few million people would go and someplace to do something, but what is that thing, what could be done, and who could lead it, because somebody has to get that message to, and that's crazy. I'm wondering, does anybody has thoughts on these political issues we have right now, and who could lead us, or where do you look for leadership in that direction?
I'm going to jump the queue and let Len go next, since he hasn't spoken yet, and then we'll go back to Dan, Nin, and then Thorsten.
Just to answer, sorry for jumping the queue, just to answer Tivo, I think when you say a few million people get together, almost a few million people have left Ukraine. So whether they're getting together or not, that's a few million people doing kind of the same thing. Left, right, up, down, good, bad, I don't know, but there's your few million people.
Thanks, Dan, you want to go next?
Yeah, with with regard to this idea of emergence through emergency, I mean, this is a great example of where we see it. I think the whole world is becoming aware of these actions and that communication network that we have now that we've never had before. I mean, before the internet, provides us with kind of at least a sense of the kind of emergence that happens, which is, firstly, it's around, I think there's a great deal of convergence around the notion that there's something seriously wrong and we need to do something about it. And then the emergence of solutions really come from more leadership around, individuals who can, understand or are in a position to take some action, but then coordinating that action in large communities is really the nut that we have to crack, because like you said, Tavo, this who do we turn to? How do we move on this? And to me, this is all about just collecting intentions and coordinating interests around those intentions, such that we can suddenly find the pieces that we need in order to take the actions that we're intending. And we don't have that yet in the internet. We just have smatterings of Facebook, posts and Twitters and this and that. And it's just communication. It's not coordinated collaboration, which is, I think, the core element of what we need in the world. That's my thought.
Thanks, Dan. Nin, you have some thoughts, and then Thorsten.
Yeah, I think there's a ton of examples of this, right? So, for example, even when people are booking Airbnbs in Ukraine, in the cities that have been bombed and almost leveled, and saying, "Hey, we just want to send you guys money. We're not coming," and supporting this. I don't think there's one organization that's saying, "Hey, let's all together go and book Airbnbs." Right? It's people hearing what other people are doing and being presented with almost like a action or asked for action, something that they can do. It's simple enough. It's easy enough. And it's within their ability, right? I think it's important for the node that takes this action also to share about it. Or at least tell others that they can also join this cause. So, yeah, something that's simple, easy to understand, and repeatable.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for that. I think that's a beautiful example of just an emergent thing, using the tools at hand without central coordination. Thorsten, and then Jem.
Yeah, what I wanted to say falls back a little bit now. It feels almost like what was striking me, actually, there is quite early in the introduction in the book kind of like this differentiation between different types of issues. And what helped me, actually, and there are actually four for those who haven't read the book, like simple issues. You can define them easily and you kind of have a clear beginning and end, you know how to solve them. And then complicated ones, which are kind of have a few moving parts, but we know how to crack them if you more or less work through. Then complex issues and chaotic issues, and they're quite similar, but it's different. So the complex ones are difficult to define, and therefore it's not really easy to get to them. And then the chaotic ones are the ones which probably can be described with humanitarian crisis in whichever shape or form. It could be a war, it could be a natural disaster, whatever. And I think what I recognized is that if you're using the wrong tool, you will not solve the problem in itself. You have to understand the context of the problem you're trying to solve, and that is setting the course of your action also. So a chaotic problem in itself has a prime purpose, which everyone hopefully kind of understands quite quickly, and then that drives the thinking. Right? Those complex ones, it's more like there is not the urgency with it, and without the urgency, it gives more room in itself to do something. So the complex ones don't have this issue of it's risking life. So and the primary intent is in a chaotic situation, how can you save as many lives as possible? And that in itself sets a purpose, which you might not have to find as clearly in complex scenarios. So what we are doing within Catalyst or within Cardano, I feel is more of a complex problem rather than a chaotic one. That kind of makes sense what I'm saying, I hope. Otherwise, yeah. So, but for me, it was quite important actually to also understand and frame what kind of problem do we really have here. Of course, that sets the tone how you can address it actually.
That's a really important clarification. And the book took that out of the Cynefin framework, and I just posted a link to that if anyone's curious to go deeper. It is a whole thing, and I know that we used it recently at another swarm meeting, so I think it definitely applies to some of the things we're talking about here too. Thanks for that. Jim, you want to go next, and then Tom?
Thank you, Nori. I'm talking about the Tuos question. As you know, I live in Turkey, and we see such kind of wars for maybe more than 30 years. Ukraine is not the first for us. So while someone is bombing the city and demolishing everything, well, what happens if you send money or support to the people that are living there? I think we should have some network mindset organizations must become a power or an authority against the hierarchical organizations. And this way we can have our voice heard by them. And we can tell them to stop, but we need to grow.
Very much agree that we need to grow.
Yeah.
Tom, you want to go next, and then Susha?
I think one of the strongest network systems that has been postulated is the Borg in Star Trek. I tried putting that up on the board, but my Miro skills got lost. The question of whether it's a Borg network or a Cardano network or any type of network is, I'm a principled person, a principled management style person. How do principles come into a network? And perhaps even more important, how does morality come into a network? And we're seeing that in the current conflict, and we saw that many years ago, and probably in every war that's ever existed is the morality and the principles. I was in a Catalyst workshop after workshop last week with Melanie, and Dor dropped in and was talking about a process called unfolding, which kind of resonated with some of the early readings and trainings I had, that problems, you don't overcomplicate them. Don't overcomplicate a network or the issues you face. And the solutions, just as we have in our proposals, will eventually unfold. Tom out.
Thanks, Tom. That's a nice share. Sosha, you had your hand up. Do you want to say something?
Yeah, well, I wasn't sure if we want to go back to the original question. I would be interested, but I guess it makes most sense if sort of we all participate in kind of trying to figure out what our strengths are in this sense. But I'm not sure we still want to go that direction. But I thought about it. I think it's more difficult to define sort of yeah, in the principles, but also you asked it in what resonates most. But the leadership roles, I think in general, I would like see. I lean more towards catalyzing than the other ones. Just naturally, I guess, catalyzing, weaving, facilitating, coordinating in that order. But I think it's interesting to think about the principles as well, to see where we would struggle, or which ones are most difficult to put in practice. But I don't know, it's hard to think all of them, yeah, are, like people said, are things that we all need to sort of foster or try and embrace. It's a bit more nuanced conversation about like what is going well or what is actually promoting emergence, right? It's very hard to grasp such principles.
Yeah, it's definitely, some of these are new, some may be totally foreign, others we're living as we go. So I think depending on who you are and your lived experience, some of these are going to be harder than others. And it's not to say network mindset is the be all end all either. It's another experiment. But it does seem to be something that's emerging kind of organically as you have decentralized organizations and things like Catalyst and other groups working together. Yeah. So thanks everyone for your thoughts. We are running kind of late, so I don't know if we want to dive totally into this last one, but maybe we can kick it off. Cultivating Impact Networks is a section of the book about how to start and run and do impact networks well. And it has the 5 C's of clarifying purpose and principles, convening the people, cultivating trust, coordinating actions, and collaborating for systems change. And maybe Yoram, you could jump in at this point and talk maybe about a practical experiment that is kicking off to cultivate an impact network.
Yeah, so I mean, what a fascinating discussion, and thanks for organizing and all the feedback. So yeah, I mean, why we are here today, right? I mean, this hour speaking about impact network, what's the purpose, and actually what we do can become an impact purpose, right? A lot of us are doing a lot of impact. I mean, by definition, the work on the blockchain and Cardano, most of it is impactful. So how we actually transfer that into a more efficient impact network. So all of that is going to be actually discussed by going to share invitation for all the respected people here. There is a session happening on Monday, 7 p.m. UTC, that brings together a lot of community members like us, like every one of us here, that concern about impact networks and how we grow them. And basically, yeah, start emerging a new collaborative impact network of us and co-design that. So you have invitation there. Everyone is invited. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of an intro for I think that's yeah, I mean, it's fascinating. And for me, I mean, you know, what's happening in Catalyst, is it an emergent, I mean, of what we are trying to do and you know, and what we are trying to become and what's the purpose behind all of that. So yeah, it's going to continue on Monday on something concrete for basically how we become a stronger impact network. And all of you are invited, obviously.
There was a question in chat about when.
So let me share here the link. So it's on Monday, 7 p.m. UTC, and it's going to be quite cool. And a lot of people will be there, and our friend Nori obviously will be there with the Miro board, and we have yeah, and we have a cool agenda for us, and basically a co-work together to start creating this impact network from Catalyst.
Awesome. Thanks, Yoram. And then some of the questions that I put up here just to kind of kick off some conversations while we have the last 7 minutes of our time here, and we can go over if you want, but I'm going to cut the recording off at 90 minutes so that people don't have to sit through two or more hours of video. But where have you seen the power of trusting relationships in your work? And what ideas do you have for strengthening trust? So that one kind of is cultivating trust. And then what techniques have you used or would like to try for helping people combine their diverse perspectives to develop a shared understanding of the system? So those are kind of some of the teaser questions, but we don't have to use those. If you have other ones around how to clarify purpose principles or how to convene the people, which is what Yorm just described with the Cardano Impact Collective meeting on Monday, or how we can collaborate better to create systemic change. Just take this moment to name this one. It's the Cardano.
Yeah, it's not your event. It's
and the Cardano
it's
Impact
our
Collective.
it's our event. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just a small fish there.
And this group is going to convene on Monday to talk about how we support each other, how we network, how we collaborate, and what are our shared goals coming together. And as part of that, we're also putting forth a challenge setting proposal for Fund 9 to create a challenge setting for impact projects. So we're calling it the Catalyst Impact Accelerator, and really looking at things of how to carve out space so that anyone who's interested in impact initiatives has a natural home. It doesn't have to go searching for weird corners of Cardano or Catalyst to put their proposals in like we had to this time. So yeah, any thoughts on any of those questions or any other things that people want to bring out, talk about? I'm curious what other kinds of impact networks are forming. I know Cardano for Climate is kind of this homegrown one, and there are a few others out there. I'd love to hear about them. Newman, you want to go next? And then
okay, I'll jump in. You know, I think that combining diverse perspectives is really the key, and maybe the difference or one of the keys for me in the new paradigm, network thinking, systems theory. And I think that the first step, and this is sort of a lived experience through sort of personal development work, is that I had to become aware of my perspectives. I had to be, you know, and sometimes it's a rude awakening. I mean, a truly rude awakening. And that needs to be, I mean, for me, it really needed to be in a sort of circle of trust. Because if you don't trust, I got defensive. If I don't trust someone, I can get defensive and start working from an old mindset. And so I think that, you know, if there is a first step, I think that realizing that we have diverse perspectives and then somehow appreciating it and, you know, using it as a feature and not a bug. Not a bug to stamp out diverse perspectives. Like everybody has to agree on the principles of the organization. That's sort of a fool's errand. Not to call anybody a fool, but it's something that I've certainly tried to do. You know, and so yeah, that's my idea about that. The first step to clarifying purpose and principles is discovering that I do have purpose and principle.
I think that's a really good point. And do you mind getting a little vulnerable and talking a little bit about, you talked about it being a difficult, or you needed a little bit of safety to really get into that. Was it really juicy, or can you give us some?
I mean, no, it's I mean, basically what we're thinking about is waking up as a network, but I think that the individuals in the network have to sort of wake up. And then wake up, I mean, not in a weird, I mean, I do live in Northern California. but it's discovering that we do have a mindset and we do have a perspective, and that you can forgive yourself for the old and not working perspectives, and that you can sort of change into a different one. As far as like a personal vulnerable story, well, sure. I grew up in the South, and well, I don't know. They played a trick on me in elementary school, and it was on like the cover of like a national weekly reader. This is a short story, hopefully. And it was on the, I can remember it very clearly, and I was probably third grade, maybe 10. And there were a picture of 8 children that basically looked like us. And they said, which of these children will be a success? And you were like, oh, okay, these are, and you would circle, and we all circled the kids that looked exactly like us. And we were like, oh crap, and it was just like, I was a little white kid, and I had I was very, very fortunate to be in a very diverse group. My elementary school is kind of in the middle of a few different neighborhoods, but I could look over at the brown kids and the other skin tone kids and the kids who spoke a different language or had a different accent, and I was mortified, absolutely. And it made a really big impression on me. Basically it just highlighted, threw into sharp relief what my prejudices were, and it quickly faded away, but I'm still working on the onion skin of sort of getting that together. And I think that there's a key component in here in working with networks, working with a diverse sort of thing. Anyway, that's a personal story that might add to the discussion.
Beautiful. Thanks for sharing. And that's a real early age to have that kind of a moment of realization. Thanks for sharing. Nin, you want to go next?
Wow. Very impactful. Quick story, actually. And Newman, I wonder, because you've learned this, like everyone has implicit biases, unconscious biases, even I do, right? And that's something that I got into when really trying to make change for diversity, equity, inclusion in hiring, right? But it's everywhere. It's just in life. And you've had this realization for such a long time, like Nori said, right? What are some of the solutions that you came up with? Because one of the things, right, I was gonna share is some of the ideas to strengthen trust is to lean into common pain, right? Pain that all of us have, and realize, well, this is unjust or unfair, or we should do something about it.
I think that linking back on it, and that happened, 40 years ago. I think that I was very fortunate, and that is the opportunity that we have in Catalyst. I was very fortunate to work, to be involved with multicultural, like to be around people with different backgrounds. So where it wasn't so shocking, the difference in culture. Yeah. And to be on purpose-driven teams. I'm thinking about, I was involved with a technical theater group, and we had, it was just a very balanced and diverse system. And our leadership, because I grew up in Atlanta in the 80s, graduating high school in 1990, in the sort of dream of the New South, and that means just a culturally sensitive Martin Luther King kind of South, was still alive. Now that's all gone. When I came back from going to school in the 90s, it was a very, very different scene. And so in that respect, I feel like to dismay, I feel like we've gotten farther away from it, especially in Atlanta. But yeah, I think that working in diverse teams is really the advice, or the thing that I owe my whatever kind of cultural sensitivity I have. And then to also sort of realize that it's not a straight line, it's not a linear thing. And that yeah, you have to really cultivate forgiveness for others and for yourself as I go through the process.
Yeah, totally agree with forgiveness. So just sharing a little bit of my story, I'll make it also short, right? I grew up in Czech Republic, and I was one of the 3 Asian kids in an all white school. I think it was like 700 people in the whole school, just these three Asian kids. And there's you know, at the beginning, there's a lot of racism and discrimination. Just no other way to say it. But as time went on, 6 months, a year and a half, you know, the same people, I became like best friends with people who didn't understand, hey, why does this guy have black hair, right? And looks different from me. And going from the surface level uncertainty, fear, whatever it is, right, to actually getting to know the person, and seeing, okay, well, they're just human, just like me, and we have same pains, same sorrows, you know, similar goals or same goals, and it's okay to not know, and it's okay to be, you know, not everyone is born into like a super diverse community or family, right? So practicing forgiveness, I love that.
Yeah.
Mhm. Thanks for sharing, man. James, and then Yoram.
Yeah, so I was gonna kind of echo what Nin just brought up, because it was similar for me. I know it's a little opposite, but you know, I came from a military family, born overseas, lived in about 10 different places. But one of the places we lived, I was one of like 6 white kids. Like we were the minority, but it took time. But it was one of those things that we, through sports, through activities, through different things that we did, we, became, more of a brotherhood of just a mix of everybody. And it was neat because, with being someone that traveled around all the time and moved from state to state to state, it's taking that with you, along with you when you go somewhere new. And it's that acceptance.
Thanks, James. Yeah, I think acceptance is a really good word for that. Yoram.
Yeah, so I have a lot of the similar experiences, but what interests me actually, I grew up as a child in the same place actually, and so I have my childhood friends are still good friends of mine, right? And like I have 30 friends that are, we're still friends, I don't know, 40 years after, right? In WhatsApp groups and meeting each other and so on. But at the same time, I moved on, right? So I went to live internationally, a little bit, met a lot of people, a lot of experiences. And what I struggle, and this is a question for all of us. So how this experience that we all felt, and probably that brought us here together, how do we bring it to the people that are not actually traveling that much or getting out of their environment? Because this is how we're able to grow somehow the network. And today I had lunch with my childhood friends, and I tried to explain them, some stuff, and there is somehow a gap there, and they're all, traveling, good jobs, a lot, but it's kind of moving and meeting these different specific experiences when we go out of our comfort zone. that you cannot really teach somehow, but still how we make it inclusive and able to grow the network, because that's the way to make the real impact somehow. And that we want to achieve eventually, and why we are all here, I assume. Anyway, just to share this thought.
Thanks for sharing that, Yoram. Marta, you want to go next?
I'm sorry I'm late, so I hope I'm not missing something important when I'm speaking here. So apologies for that in advance. I have a question, which is, it's rather interesting to me. So I've been involved in like people from Cupertino and who some of them early
There is sound and we don't hear it.
I've been involved with some people from Cupertino lately, and some of them are the early developers and some of them current developers of like XR technologies. So, and I know, Nori, you're from Amazon. I mean, you worked at Amazon for a while. I don't know if you still do or not, but anyway, in that group, it's very inclusive. And being a woman with some technical background in that area, I can speak, and there's no snarky comments, and it's very and the people team up together that are, you know, of all different backgrounds or I call it attributes. So like I'm female, you know, so it's an attribute. So anyway, but it seems like my experience where I've run into problems are, and I totally support people in the military, and I was really happy to hear James speak. I'm totally support. My family members were part of the military, so I totally support the military and I admire them, and I admire most strong developers who are from the military. But why do the snarky comments come from those areas or from people who, I mean, why do I run into problems there, but I don't run into problems in the Cupertino really high-end developer people environments? Like, so that's sort of a question, not that it has to be answered today, but that's just a question to sort of raise awareness about that. And other women too, not just me. I don't mean it's like personal to me, but it's really interesting to me. It's an interesting problem. And I wondered if maybe Nori could speak to like his experience at Amazon or what that was like, or, you know, because those are like old legacy systems. So, and one thing though is that I noticed, maybe this is the issue, maybe it's because most of the people in those groups are US based. And so maybe they have some kind of a idea within the development world about that. Maybe there's some, you know, you can't talk this way, you know, in these circles, you know, I don't know. So anyway, that's all.
Yeah, I can comment.
Can I just ask something? Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Are you talking about military specific or?
I'm talking about where I ran into problems and where other women who were technical, who I knew, were often experienced, if they had an interest in being developers or developing at any age, and this has been going on for a long time, that it was in environments where there was military funding or the developers had military background. And I have my thoughts about that, but I mean, where they were concentrated. So these areas were, so like MIT and CMU, there was problems there. So, you know, but with this whole group of people from Cupertino and who worked in development for a long time, who are working in XR development processes. So that's like Meta or, you know, virtual reality, those kinds of things. They're incredibly welcoming and opening and want to hear and want to embrace you and want you, you know, want to, I mean, there's not even any sense of like put downs or snarky comments, none. So I'm just curious about that, but anyway, thanks.
I just want to add real quick. I'm sorry, Nori, if I am military or I'm from a military background. That actually makes me really sad to hear that you have gone through that experience, because I definitely don't look at it that way. But I can understand, you know, coming from a military background and from that area, that we might look at things in a different way or might be a little harsher. But I'm definitely very sad to hear your experience, because that's absolutely not how I would approach it. I'm sorry I interrupted.
No prejudice against the individuals. So I'm just making an observation. So yeah, I'm not criticizing any particular person, and it's not speaking about just my experience. So
Thanks, Marta. And I can speak a little bit from my Amazon perspective. I no longer work there, but I was there for 17 years. And there are a couple of things that work at Amazon that creates a culture that is much more welcoming, inclusive, diverse. One is there's definitely corporate training on diversity and inclusion that everyone goes through every year. And we have trainings on how to bust biases. We look at all the different biases as managers before we do any kind of performance review. So there's the gender bias, recency bias, all sorts of biases. There's like, we go through a list of 20 and make sure we call each other out whenever we see somebody maybe acting on bias. And we go, hey, that might be a little recency bias. They did something really great last week, but they've been performing like crap for the past 9 months and you're like ignoring that. So humans are naturally wired to have biases. And I think it takes concerted action and energy to consciously handle them. Another thing that Amazon has, I think, is just from its size. It has what, 500,000 developers on staff that are paid, and when you hire like the top 5 or 1% of all software developers in the world, you run out of people in the United States. So they have to go international and they have to hire all around the world. And because of that, you have naturally diverse international teams of people. And that was mentioned earlier, is just working alongside people from different cultures, different backgrounds, opens up your eyes that, hey, not everybody thinks the same, acts the same, believes the same. And you learn those skills to be more welcoming. So I think maybe its size helps, and probably why you also see that in other larger high-tech companies. And yeah, those are my thoughts there. But Session, you have your hand up.
Hey, what's up, guys? Yeah, Yoram's thought sparked a thought of my own that I figured I'd contribute. He spoke about his old friend that he was trying to communicate these ideas to. And it made me think about this book I read called The Tipping Point. I don't know if anybody's read that book, by Malcolm Gladwell. And it talks about the different types of people. You know, he spoke about these group of people that do 80% of the work, you know, the 80-20 rule that, you know, are done by 20% of the participants. And so the 3 types are the connector, you know, the people in the community who know large numbers of people, right? They are used to making intros. And the mavens, and those are the people that are information specialists, right? They're the ones that come up with the new information and spread them. And the salesmen, the persuaders, the people that push that information out to the public. So I guess I thought of that because I thought maybe for Yoram, maybe your friend is just not one of those type of people. And in these early stages, we need to find these people first to then get the rest. And I'll leave a link to the book, The Tipping Point. It's a really good book.
Thanks, Session. Dan, you want to go next? And then I think we should start to wrap this up. We're running a little long, and I have one final thing at the end that I want to do. So
yeah, my thought here is only a question really to you, Nori, because having lived in a company, a large corporate setting where there was the requirement for collaboration, can you give some examples of collaboration and collaboration platforms that that worked well within Amazon?
So some of the big things were, at Amazon, PowerPoints are forbidden. It leads to sloppy thinking. So everything is done through 1-page documents or 6-page documents. And that really forces you to clarify your thoughts, to be able to write it down in a coherent manner that other people can digest. And that's usually what's shared around and used at meetings. So that helps with communication, and it helps with making sure your ideas are clear. Other things, Amazon's a naturally decentralized organization. It has thousands and thousands of software development teams, and nobody knows who's doing what where. So it really relies on personal connections and networking to actually know what's happening around the company. There's no one person that has a top-down view of everything. And there is hierarchy. There's managers and senior managers and directors and all that, VPs, but each independent software development team is a pretty independent 8 to 10 person team that they call them 2 pizza teams. And they can totally decide what they do and work on within kind of the guidance of their organization. But they have a lot of autonomy. And I think that really helps because you're forced to rely on human networking and that kind of collaboration. Skills build up naturally over time when there's not command and control structures for information flow.
So the emergence of the ideas came from kind of ad hoc leadership roles that were taken within a certain domain of kind of direction.
Could be
corporate direction.
Yeah, it could be coming from somebody who has a great idea, and then they just throw it out there and see if it works. And then if it does, they add more money to it, add more people. But the ideas can come from anywhere. Yeah.
But there's no formal way that you use to organize that effort, that collaborative effort.
There's some, like there are things called, I don't know if I'm giving away secret sauce here, but OP1 documents. And those are the things every year, every team creates their operational plan document that outlines what they're going to do for the next year. And solidifying that requires you to talk to other teams and collaborating and getting all those things together. So there is structure. It's not complete emergent chaos, but it is fairly decentralized from what I saw.
Cool. Thank you for sharing your secret sauce.
Okay, we're almost at 2 hours now. So thanks everybody for your participation, contributions, and conversation. I intend to keep this Miro board going between all the different books. Book 1, next time we'll do book 2, and this will be open to the community to look. I will put the recording of this session right here next to it, so people can share, and if they couldn't come, down here, the next topic, and if you don't have a link to Miro, you might want to jump in right now, is what do you want to talk about next? And I have a section here, and I'd like to do it by topic. So do we want to learn about business models or leadership or coaching or writing skills? And so just throw ideas up onto this wall if there's something there that you don't see. And then we will vote really quick and see where kind of the interest falls. And maybe that can help guide us with the next book, because I'd like to pick that over the next week. And then maybe in a month's time, we can gather again and do book number 2. So let's take maybe a minute or two to let everybody come in and put in some topics. Again, I'm not really looking for book titles. I'm looking for topics. And then once we narrow down a topic, maybe a book will arise that would be relevant. But this is, I really want to make this emergent for this group too. Since you showed up, I want to make sure that this is serving your needs. And if there's any topics or areas that you really want to learn more about or get deeper into, this is an opportunity to push that. And maybe we can all do it as a group. Systems.
I love this, Nori. Is this like a book club that's been going on for a while and I just missed out? I've just been missing out all this time?
No, this is the first face-to-face meeting of this book club. So yeah, I put a proposal to Fund 6, and I'm finally getting around to doing it. So I was funded to do 6 of these. So I plan to carry on for at least six books.
This is part of the cultural department of the community. So
yes.
We're emerging with cultural with culture now. It's quite cool, very cool.
Ministry of the Future. I'm going to put Ministry of the Future to the side. It's an excellent book. It's science fiction, but it's not a topic. It's a book title. So I'll put it over here. Oh, thanks, Newman. That's a good topic for that. We have building reputation, Plutus Fernandez, systems thinking. And it looks like we have autobiographies coming up here. Anything else? Are people generally done? Oh, I see one coming in.
Theory. I think it was done before about theory, the sensing something. Are you done with that?
Oh yeah, that's a specific book. I'm not sure where that would fall in these topics though. It's kind of a weird.
Yeah, it's leadership also.
Yeah, it might be a good leadership topic. Yeah, we can throw that up there. We have data center design, systems thinking. I'll move this up. Move this to the side. Okay, it looks like Newman and Eric are finishing up a couple of stickies. All right, so I'm going to open up a quick vote. Each of you will have 3 votes. So pick your 3 favorite stickies. We'll have 2 minutes to do it. You can vote once per object. And then I will select everything.
I'm the dumb one to ask. How do you do that? Oh.
It'll show up in a second. And then each of the stickies that I just selected will have a plus sign over it. And then you can click on it for the vote. And let's start. If you have any questions and it's not clear when the voting starts, there should be a button now, a blue button called Join Voting. And if you want to abstain, you can say I'm not participating. But once you click the Join Voting, as you can see here, there's plus signs across the different stickies. So just click on the plus and we'll give it another minute for people to decide. And each person you can vote up to 3 times. Welcome, Anzola. We're just finishing up. It's nice for you.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm late.
Yeah, we've kept a pretty
Very
good
sorry.
Miro board of all the stuff that we've talked about if you want to go over that.
Okay.
Nori, can you move the notes, design thinking, UX, and IDEO? So.
Yeah, actually, my screen is locked until the voting is done.
No, can you explain maybe how to vote if with your mouse? Can you show it to people?
Yeah, so if you want to vote, just click on this and it'll show a 1. That means you have 1 vote there. And then that's your second vote. Everyone has up to 3.
Yeah, it's systems thinking is not votable right now.
Oh, it's not?
No.
And if we, yeah.
Okay, let's start this over again then. Sorry for the technical difficulties. Okay, we should spread the stickies out so they're not touching each other, or else the selection process might not work.
Okay.
So is everybody happy with these? Let's try that again.
I was just thinking that the design and systems and like all the designing is sort of one group, you know, but it's just my
Yeah.
thought.
So do we just want to call it, say, design thinking?
Yeah, there seems to be quite a bit of people saying design or systems thinking in the chat, but not maybe they're not on the Miro board. I guess there's no votes for it. So
Okay, is everybody on the Miro board? So we'll keep systems thinking and call it design and systems thinking.
Yeah, that would be cool. Yeah, I think, yeah.
Okay. Can we combine advocate life story with autobiography? We'll move this to the side and make this one the bigger topic. And then I'll combine that with historical accounts so that we have a clear topic, sci-fi.
I kind of love this as a sort of a very practical democratic process, because it does is just like all the votes are sort of spread out, and this is interesting to sort of figure out like the general topics.
Yeah, it's kind of an experiment in emergence, I think.
I want to choose more than 3.
Let's see, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
The rules, yeah, the rules.
We have 12, so I'll give everybody 4 votes. How's that?
Hooray! Hooray!
Okay, so we'll select the objects now. I'm going to include all of these current stickies. Perfect. So the things with the blue dots are going to be the ones to vote on. And I will start. You should now see a blue join voting thing on your screen. Please click it. And then each of the stickies will now have a plus symbol next to it. So the topics that you're interested in, click the plus, and then you'll see a 1 show up, and that means you have a vote there. And you'll only see your own votes until we complete the votes, and then that'll pop up. So I'm going to vote publicly here just so that you can see how it's working.
Ooh, I just noticed imagining the future. That's a cool one.
That could be a fun, lighter topic to not get into some super serious books.
So how do I click? I am clicking, but it is not showing blue.
Did you see a window that says join voting earlier?
I see join voting. Yes, up there. No,
Yeah.
No, I don't see it.
Okay. After we tally, if you can add your votes to the ones that come up, then we can add your
Okay.
vote that way.
Okay.
So 20 seconds left.
I'm excited about this. I always wanted to be in a book club.
Yeah, you can put it in the CV now.
What?
I'm just kidding.
Why?
We
Oh,
see
there
it
it
on
is.
our side, Nori.
Cannot
Okay.
find the plus sign, Nori.
Yeah,
I
see him
cannot
now.
find the plus sign. Anyway, it's okay.
Okay, it looks like we have a tie between building reputation in an open network system and 11 votes for design and systems thinking. So, and Zola, since you couldn't vote,
Yeah.
between those two, which ones would you select as a topic for next time?
Design a system for thinking.
Thinking? Okay. So
Hooray!
let's do that. Hopefully that was a popular one with 11 votes. That means over half of us voted for that. So next time we will do design and systems thinking. So let me share a link to the Telegram group if you're not on it already. And in there, we can throw out titles for any kind of design and system thinking books that you think would be interesting. If you haven't read any, that's cool. I have a few on my shelf. And there's the link to Telegram. Oh, Dimitri, do you have a vote? You couldn't vote? The two options were design and systems thinking and building a reputation in an open systems network, I think.
And Nuri, how about if I was also interested on how to get regular people interested in Cardano's blockchain. That is really important for me because I know a lot of regular people. And then I come from myself from regular people and I work for regular people. So I really want them to know about this.
Yeah, that might be an interesting conversation. I'm not sure what kind of books we would steer towards to actually achieve that, but I would love to discuss that with you. We have a tie. Dimitri didn't get to vote either. So he has voted for the other concept. So we need to have a runoff vote. So I'm going to refresh my screen. Let's see if I can get my control bar back. Sorry for my computer being so slow. And again, I put the book club chat Telegram channel into the Zoom chat here. So please feel free to join if you want to converse with everybody about the book selections. And as we read the books, it's great to have a little running chat in there about what you think, how the book is landing for you and all that. Thanks for coming, Miroslav. We'll see you soon.
Okay, thank you.
There we go. I think my voting power is back. All right, this time everybody gets one vote, and I'm going to keep it short to 1 minute. And we have the two tied stickies of building reputation in an open network and design design and systems thinking. Oops. Thanks, Newman. That makes it easier for me. Okay. So now, if you can see the join voting button, please press it, and you'll have 1 minute to cast your votes here. And I will vote publicly as well.
Hey, Nori, where is the Telegram group link?
I put it into chat. I just dropped it in again.
Oh, in the chat. Oh, yeah. I'm on a mobile phone, so my chat is a little hidden. Thanks.
Okay. I'll put it on a sticky up here as well. I think that's a good point. This should be publicly available.
Thanks.
All right. We have 13 of 13 people voted. So I'm going to end the vote early, since we don't have to wait for the last little bit. And let's see what happens. Dun, dun, dun. So this time it's 9 to 4. Design and system thinking will be our next topic. So we will select our book and chat over the next week, and then start reading it, and then we'll gather again here soon. And last time we had 6 weeks to read the book and go. We'll kind of figure out the cadence. I know everyone's super busy, and it's really hard to get a book in, but I really appreciate you all coming and taking part. For the people who showed up to Swarm and weren't expecting this, thanks for sticking around and participating. I'm sure it's nice to let other people know about the book club's existence. And we'll be doing this more often, at least 6 times. So yeah, thanks for the participation and engagement. And I really enjoyed it. So thanks, everybody. And with that, we will officially end the meeting and Swarm as well. So yeah, if you want to hang out, chat, and be social, feel free to do so, but we're officially done. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Nori.
Thanks, Nori. Take care.
Thanks.